I told Ken Thompson I'd speak on Clinton and the news media: spin, substance, and scandal. Let me summarize my major themes right at the outset. Basically, I will argue that the mainstream news media ill-served the nation in our coverage of Clinton's presidency from the start. We did so by paying grossly excessive attention to relatively insignificant scandals. We thus misled the public by misplaced emphasis on what we defined as news, to the detriment of more worthy matters of public affairs. By doing so, we wounded a promising presidency and sapped White House energies throughout Clinton's tenure. We thus abetted his political enemies in their relentless campaign to discredit and obstruct him, however unintentionally, and that was not our intent. And I think the nation is worse off because of it. The mainstream news media did this not to serve any political agenda, but instead because of a distorted value system that permeates political journalism. It is rooted in excessive investment in our watchdog role over those in power, to the detriment of other equally important journalistic values such as fairness, balance, and educating the public about the substantive policies of those who govern. Let me turn first now to the substantive achievements of the Clinton presidency. The central fact about the Clinton presidency, which the news media have not emphasized sufficiently in my judgment, at least not for a long time, is that he achieved considerable success in doing what he said he would do if elected. Remember, his unofficial 1992 campaign slogan was, "It's the economy, stupid." He promised to, quote, "focus on the economy like a laser beam," and he did. His best legacy is this: he brought fiscal discipline to the 20th century welfare state, to the nation's demonstrable benefit. He ended 29 straight years of monstrous federal budget deficits, which had quadrupled our national debt in the 12 previous years, hobbled our economic growth, and had fed a growing perception that Washington could not come to grips with its largest problem. He also overhauled a miserable welfare system, and he has focused the most consistent theme of his foreign policy, some would say the only consistent theme, on advancing U.S. economic interest abroad and globally. The result of all this has been a 6-year economic boom, 16 million net new jobs, unemployment at a 30-year low, an impressive rise in U.S. living standards after years of troubling stagnation. And while Clinton alone, of course, is not responsible for the economy's performance, his contribution to it was considerable. And you don't have to take my word for it. Take Alan Greenspan, the chairman of the Federal Reserve and a lifelong conservative Republican economist. Only last month, in testimony before the Senate Budget Committee, Greenspan said this, and I quote, "We've made considerable progress going from a very large deficit down to a surplus. It brought long-term interest rates down very appreciably. It's been a crucial factor in economic expansion and the state of the economy which we have experienced in recent years. And a very substantial part of that progress," Mr. Greenspan said, "reflects the approach of both the administration and the Congress to come to grips with a very difficult budget deficit problem and effectively resolve it in a manner far more impressively than I would ever have imagined when the process first began." And he credited the Congress with that. It's worth remembering that not a single Republican lawmaker voted for the Clinton budget in '93 in his economic plan, which provided the final big governmental push toward balancing the budget. In short, Bill Clinton largely delivered his essential promise and did what he was elected to do. And in fact, we at Knight Ridder kept a meticulous record of how he delivered on his 1992 campaign promises during his first term as president. And we published it in newspapers across America on the eve of his reelection. We documented 160 specific campaign promises that Clinton made in '92. The record shows that he achieved 102 of them in his first 4 years, a success rate of 66%. He failed to deliver on 50 others, and action was pending on 4 at the time of his election. Moreover, if you give Clinton credit for trying to keep at least 23 other promises that he pushed to fulfill, but which Congress blocked, such as several involved in his health care reform proposals, his rate of kept promises would have been 79%. I think that's proof the president worked hard to keep his public promises. Now, to be sure, some promises were bigger than others, but a fair accounting can only conclude that he tried hard to do what he pledged. And I think the broad public understands that. They reelected him. and his job approval rating has remained very high despite this terrible year.